Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 24 of the Deus Ex Cinema Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Clues. Joining me, as always, is Soraya Uchuk.
No.
And back from his absence last week, Marty Adams.
It was my first one, wasn't it?
It was not.
Was it?
You missed La La Land.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You're flaking. You're slipping. I shouldn't even be saying as always anymore because both you motherfuckers are never here. Soon it'll just be me rambling into a microphone about movies all by myself.
I'm angry.
You've considered doing videos on your own already.
I'm breaking off, motherfuckers. I'm going solo.
Wait, can I still get part of the money?
I'm going Beyonce on you. So, we're doing our round table before we start our animation genre rotation. We're going to be trying something different this week where I have brought a topic that we're going to talk about, and it should fill most of the time. Instead, we're just going to do one topic instead of three topics. Mm-hmm. And then also, at the end, when we're talking about things we've seen, we'll do our review of Detective Pikachu. So if anyone's interested in that, just fucking fast forward to whenever that is. So what I wanted to talk about today was nostalgia.
What?
Nostalgia.
Your book?
No, what? No, like the feeling of nostalgia and how it's used in movies and games.
Okay.
And how it, is the root cause of most of my actions, and why I have no money.
Well, the first thing that I thought would be interesting to talk about was there was a study that came out quite a while ago that I saw that found that our generation, the Gen Y or whatever, the Gen X, whatever the fuck we are.
I'm a millennial.
Millennials, Aaron.
Oh yeah, we are millennials, aren't we?
No.
Yeah. That millennials are more susceptible to feeling nostalgia because there's been so much technological advancement in our lifetimes.
Well, I think that's the root cause of it, honestly. Just because, especially, I was born in '93, and I was by the time 2000 rolled around, I was old enough to start developing some pretty real memories.
Yeah.
That weren't just stories.
Yeah.
And so, I have a lot of memories, actually, from, the late 90s about, the cartoons that were on. Usually it's the media that was produced, just even fashion, cars, all the stuff that kind of just, that you just remember the world being like back then.
Yeah.
And I think, it was, really the early 2000s when it all started to, change significantly. Once the internet started getting better, phones started really becoming a thing. And I think those are the big things, to be honest with you. Just networking. And so before then, growing up in the country, I have a lot of nostalgia for basically just being totally disconnected and isolated from everything. Because that's how I grew up,
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to be attached to something if that's all you have.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a big thing. I don't know. You were, 96?
Yeah, I was born in 96.
So a little bit later, but that's the thing. Even a few years will significantly divides our generation. I think even if you go back from 80s kids, 80s millennials,
Yeah.
to me and you.
Well, and it's even crazy just thinking, tying this back to movies and video games. When we were all growing up, it was Game Boy Advance. Now there's a Switch where it's 1080p. Some games hit 60 frames.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Cross multi-platform.
Yeah,
thing.
multi-platform shit. We have. I remember going to the old Hollywood Video and renting Game and Watch,
Yep.
and just being entertained by hours with that. And now it's okay, if something doesn't have 4K on my Xbox, I'm oh.
Well,
You don't have 4K. When before it was 2-frame animations of 6 squares.
Well, and it did feel real, because again, that back then we had the Dick's, it was the grocery store, and they had a video game and movie rental section, and I would always get Nintendo 64 games from there.
Yeah.
For example, I've told you guys how I used to have really bad ear infections all the time, and it'd always be the middle of the fucking night. I'm like a little hoser at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And one night I remember my dad took me, after going to the hospital, we stopped and picked up Battle Tanks for Nintendo 64.
Hell yeah.
The original one, and I thought they were the most modern, awesome looking graphics. And I have so much, nostalgia for that game because that one night, it was pretty miserable, but that kind of helped make me feel better. So then I went off and bought the Battle Tanks 2 after that, and that's what I played for pretty much my entire childhood. I went back to it like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And holy balls, man, that thing's janky.
Yeah, no, I went back to, this was even a while ago, back in this is probably 10 years ago at this point. I was really into wrestling games, and so I played a lot of SmackDown Bring It On PlayStation 1. And even by the 360 generation, I tried to go back to the PlayStation 1 and it gave me a fucking headache.
Yeah.
It's just like, how did I even comprehend this? It's all so ugly and just chunky. But that's actually something really interesting, kind of leading into one aspect of this I want to talk about was, because obviously I'm going to try and tie this into games and movies.
Well, and with the movie we're going to talk about, that's the whole reason. One
of the points.
Yeah.
But so the one thing I wanted to talk about is the aspect with games, because there's a decent amount of video game remakes, but what I really wanted to focus on were Nintendo games, especially Mario and Pokemon.
So that's the big thing for me.
Because when you look at both of those series, they haven't really changed much, but yet, and they don't get the bad rep that games like Call of Duty get, where they're annualized and they're pretty much the same game every time.
Yeah.
But if you played the first Pokemon and then the newest Pokemon, there's not a lot different. You could, I understand that with Pokemon, there's a lot of granular stuff that you can dig into, but you don't have to.
It's all polished. There's no real new mechanic. There's the Z moves and stuff like that, but that's not even really a new mechanic because it's still
it's just a move.
The entire game in and of itself is still the exact same format, just with different places and character names. You know? That's all it is.
And Team Skull.
Gotta love Team Skull. The rat battling Team Skull. Even Mario, it's like you just it's still running to the right. They've added one or two pickups since Super Mario 3. It's like, oh, now you're a cat and you can climb a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. Sorry, you're a big Pokemon fan.
I wouldn't say I'm a big fan.
But you play Pokemon.
Yeah.
So, where do you fall? Is it nostalgia for you, or, how do you not... Because I have a hard time finishing a Pokemon game.
My Pokemon days were mainly just watching the Pokemon TV show.
Okay.
So, and, the Pokemon, the first movie.
Okay.
Those were my Pokemon days. I did not get into the trading card game. I had a Game Boy, but my parents would never buy me the Pokemon games for it. So, I know, right? I totally missed out on all of that as a kid. But, I don't know. What do you want me to say? I was
just curious.
Well, I used to be the polar opposite of you. I fucking love Pokemon. Because those old, back in the day, you'd always get those sticker and temporary tattoo books.
Fuck yeah.
Yep.
Dude, I used to get the temporary tattoo ones, and when I was 6 or 7, my entire arms were just covered. I had Pokemon sleeves.
You should get a Pokemon sleeve.
Yeah, so
people have those. Okay, they're cool.
But it was just a shit ton of temporary tattoos. Half of them were wearing off. I was pretty obsessed with it because the original thing that got me into it is a friend of mine had silver for his Game Boy, and I played the intro part, the first 15 minutes of it. And I was like, "This is the coolest thing ever." And so I got mine over summer, and I think I put hundreds upon hundreds of hours in that one game. I a full team of level 100 Pokemon. I caught all of them. I had a level 100 Vulpix because I didn't know it evolved with a Firestone. My team was just the most random, fucked up thing that made no sense. But in it was a Lickitung in there. Oh yeah. But yeah, I was real hard into it. And then there's Pokemon Battle Stadium.
Battle Stadium was my shit.
I loved Battle Stadium.
I went over to a friend's house for his birthday, and all we did was just play Battle Stadium.
Yeah.
And I still remember that.
It was all about Battle Stadium and Pokemon Snap.
I never got into Snap.
Oh, Snap was the shit. Snap was pretty much a rail shooter, but instead of shooting things, you would go. You were in a cart that went along a map, and you had a camera, and you just had to take pictures of Pokemon. as you went along.
And you get
they'd have,
points for like
animations. Yeah, so you had to
I do
like frame
remember
it better,
that.
or you could like catch them in an animation and you get more points.
Yeah.
They had like that
okay.
big fucking thing that you had to attach to the back of the N64
I remember
controller.
that.
Like Hey You Pikachu was another one because
Yeah.
I got like strep throat or something, so I had to stay home from school and I was really miserable. So my mom bought me Hey You Pikachu just to give me something to do, and like it was so janky. The microphone barely worked. It would never listen to you because it could just never know what you're saying. But like played through that entire thing in like
great.
2 days.
I loved Hey You Pikachu. Well, I think another game series that isn't Nintendo specific is The Sims.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go Spyro Crash Bandicoot.
No.
The Crash Bandicoot Racing is a big one for me.
Yeah.
For PS1, but
I'm more talking like, I mean, every Sims game is
The same.
for the most part. But you know, I mean, I've probably played every single Sims game that's been released, and still, I mean, when we've done videos for our YouTube channel, or when Sreya's just gotten on Addict Around, I'm always like, it'd be nice to get back into Sims. You know, it's like there's always that little voice in the back. It's always, or even the three of us just yesterday played Minecraft again. And I think we all have a large period of our life that we lost to Minecraft.
I had the dreams, man. When I shoved Macy into a wall because I thought she was a zombie.
Oh my
Because
god.
I told you about that.
I think you've talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah. Rehash.
But yeah, so I mean, even, we started playing Minecraft again, and that's pure nostalgia.
I didn't feel good about it though.
Yeah, that Minecraft's one where I always kind of hate myself a little bit whenever you dip a toe back in.
Mostly because I have better things that I could have been doing.
Yeah.
But like the summer that I really got into it, when me and my brother played, like probably like 30 to 40 hours a week of it.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
It was between school, so I'm like, fuck it, let's just play Minecraft every day forever. And that was probably the most fun I ever had with Minecraft.
I don't think I got as into Minecraft as both of you did. Because my brother was more into it than I was.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was stupid. And then I started playing it, and then I was like, yeah, this is actually pretty cool. And then I was able to break it. I just kept coming back.
I was so like just anti everything that everybody else liked for so long that like
you fucking hipster.
everyone else was so like, they just loved Minecraft. Oh, it's so great.
Yeah.
It's the best game ever. And I didn't really know what it was. I was like, but everything's like pixelated. It looks stupid.
Yeah. You were cultured. You played Fortress Craft.
Yeah.
You played Castle Miner Z.
But it looked like a really like cheap kind of third party type game.
Yeah.
It just wasn't of any quality. So I was like, why are people getting into that shit? And then like my brother got it for 360, and then that's when it started. That's when my life just stopped happening, and I just played Minecraft for a summer.
Welcome to MA, Minecraft Anonymous.
If it helps you at all, Marty, I'm pretty sure I've told you about this. But not only did I have probably a year and a half of Minecraft constantly, building that creative world, but before that, I had a solid 6 months of Fortress Craft, which I don't think I've told this story on the podcast. So it was on the 360 days, and it was before Minecraft came to 360, and 360 had the indie store, where anybody could pay $100 and put any fucking game on Xbox. And so I downloaded Fortress Craft, which was Minecraft, but it was only creative mode. It was much jankier. It wasn't pixelated at all. But I didn't give a shit. So me and like two friends would just play a fuck ton of Fortress Craft. Like to the point where I would build out a whole city and then I'd just destroy it and start over. And I did that like 5 or 6 times. And then they added this feature where you could build custom blocks, where there's like a room, like a 64 by 64 room. And you could build anything in that room, and then you could save it, and then it would shrink it down to a normal block size, so you could build whatever you wanted. Mm-hmm. Which was awesome. So like a friend and I made a whole level where we made like zombies and like dead people and blood splatters, and we made like an apocalypse city. It got to the point where the developer found my world and started putting me on the website, like pictures of my world. And then Minecraft came out and just everybody fucking dropped it. And just no one gave a shit anymore.
You missed your chance at fame.
Yeah, that was it. If I had invested in the right indie game, like if I had been like really good at Terraria, like something that actually took off. Another thing with old nostalgia though that I think is interesting is how much old references from our childhood have persisted. I mean, I don't think I go through a single day where I don't hear SpongeBob references.
Yeah. Well, and that's a weird one though too, because that's still, it's still being produced and everything. So like it's still relevant because it's not just in our memory at this point.
But none of the references are ever to new stuff.
Well, but they still. The thing is because it's still being made, they still air the reruns constantly.
That's true.
They're still on TV. Even the old ones from like '99.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the big reason for it.
Yeah.
Aside from just being so long running that you can pull what you need from one of the episodes.
But I mean, also like, I can't remember the last time I sat down and watched SpongeBob.
Yeah.
And yet I still.
But we bought.
I mean, we bought
DVDs.
this DVDs, but like we've only had them in the background, and we've only done that once or twice.
Oh.
And
Yes.
and it was
Just
only
for
like a handful of
Thanksgiving.
episodes, and yet I still remember so many episodes, so many references.
Yeah.
Where like Trey and I will be talking, I'll just be like, oh yeah, that was this episode where he does this and this and this and this. And it's just, I feel like our generation just has such a weird ability to just remember shit
Well,
like that for so long.
Yeah.
Or Family Guy.
And I think that's the thing too, is our generation with those changes that we've had to kind of see growing up, is that, one, I mean, you're going to become more cynical, as you get older anyway,
Yeah.
once you start having to deal with like the realities of life. But this is a kind of a weird time, I think, to get into that, phase, that age.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a lot harder for us to let go of all these things that made us like feel like, just genuinely happy and content.
Yeah.
Like I think most people would kill to go back and just enjoy their first Pokemon game again, or just any of these things from like growing up, because when you're younger, you don't have these larger existential problems to deal with. And I think that's a big reason why our generation's so attached to these things.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's kind of hard to find anything else now
Mm-hmm.
that brings that same feeling.
Well, and I think one thing too is it's interesting to me how this nostalgia of us sort of latching onto those things from our childhood really doesn't depend on quality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you look at like the Star Wars prequels,
Yeah.
like they're awful movies. Everything about them is garbage. But like people love making prequel memes about them, and it's like once you start there and everyone's seen memes and everyone's like ironically liking it, it's not long until people are like, no, these movies are actually good.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many articles have you seen, about old shitty movies where it's like, this movie's not as bad as you think it was, or like, it's time to go back and look at this. It's like, no, they're shitty. They're garbage.
Yeah, and I mean, there's certain like viewpoints and perspectives you can take on something. On saying like, yeah, it may be a shitty movie, for example, or a shitty game or whatever. But if during that time it brought you some bit of enjoyment, it's easy to still try and like excuse it.
Yeah.
Just because from younger eyes you're going to be less critical, so you're only going to be getting more of the positives from it.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the same time, you can look back and say, yeah, it's an objectively bad movie.
Yeah.
I think either perspective's kind of fair in this case.
No, yeah, I think so too. I just think it's interesting how it doesn't care whether or not it's good.
Yeah, and I guess I can't really speak for most people, but I think for me, it's not so much about the actual game or movie or TV show, whatever. It's more about what else was happening around the time that I took that media.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars, I still think it's a good game, so like I would still play it. But Shadow of the Empire,
Mm-hmm.
Saturday mornings my dad and I would play that. He'd always go make fresh donuts out of like biscuits and stuff like that, and we would just play Shadow of the Empire for a couple hours every Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And I think I missed that more than I missed the game.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how it is for me for most things. It's always like the setting that game or movie was attached to.
Mm-hmm.
that makes it nostalgic to me. Because like SpongeBob, for example, I mean, I watched it when I was younger, but I really don't feel that with like SpongeBob or The Sims.
Yeah.
Because I never really had any other good associated memories with it.
Yeah.
Even though I played it.
So then I'd be curious. I don't think this will apply to you too much because you don't give a shit about it. But I wonder then how that would work with things like the Disney live action remakes, because those are completely fueled by nostalgia. Like people aren't the people going to see the new Aladdin or the new Beauty and the Beast are people who saw the original as a child and it's like, oh, now my kid needs to see that. You know, or they're like, oh, I just want to see the new Lion King, even though it's the exact same movie.
It's just with better graphics. That's it.
Yeah, and Soraya, I'd be curious what you think of this because you like Disney movies a lot. I think a lot more than Marty and I do.
Yeah, and I have a very cynical view on all of these that I can wait to kind of see what you have to say about it, because I never really liked Disney movies even growing up.
Yeah, I had like a couple. But so Soraya, from your perspective of someone who greatly enjoys Disney movies, even now you really like the old ones, and they also played a pretty big role in your childhood, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Do the live action remakes do anything for that?
No.
They don't hit the nostalgia at all. It's like when you were watching Beauty and the Beast, because you didn't mind Beauty and the Beast, correct? You thought it was okay?
I thought,
if I remember correctly.
I didn't think it was okay. I thought it was a little bit less than okay.
Okay.
But I mean, I think my problem with the live action remakes is that they're not
doing them justice or something. Or?
I feel like they're not doing them justice, and I also really enjoyed the original Disney movies because they were hand drawn and animated.
Yeah.
And they've held up really, really well.
Okay.
And with the way graphics are going nowadays, I feel like the CGI is not going to hold up well in a couple of years.
Well, yeah, not at all.
And I can kind of say, like, with the old animation styles like that, it almost creates a world in and of itself just because of the animation. You know, it's the new ones that are, well, pretty much anything that's a live action, it's a lot harder for me to really get attached to the world because it feels like Earth. It feels like the reality. It's not something that my imagination can really run with.
I also think I just prefer the original Disney movies just because I grew up with those.
Yeah.
And it's hard to go from that mindset into CGI, a CGI world. And I also think that they're not, these are supposed to be remakes, correct?
Yeah.
These are remakes, reboots, but aren't remakes typically just supposed to be a remake of the actual story that it's based off of? Because with Beauty and the Beast, they kind of go off the original Disney Beauty and the Beast story.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have anything to do with the mom having fucking, was it the Black Plague? I think. They add that entire thing. And then they have, like, a special mirror. No. Was it a book? I think it's a book that they have where she can fucking travel
back in time.
I don't think it's back in time. It's she can just teleport to. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, where Beast shows her a book or a mirror or some shit, and it ends up teleporting her and the Beast to where she was a baby and her mom died. The house that they had before her dad moved her to whatever fucking town they moved to. And that's not in the original Disney movie. Yeah. If it's a remake, I feel like remakes are just supposed to be remakes of the original, just with better graphics.
So if these live action ones did the story justice,
like I would like them a little bit more.
So let's say that Lion King comes out.
Yeah.
And it does the story just perfectly. That it does it justice, like you say. Would you rather watch the new one or the old one then?
Old one, still.
You'd still want to watch the old one? Okay.
Just because of the animation again.
Yeah.
Like, I like the old artwork that they did.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of CGI.
And that's where the dilemma is too, because it's like, in that case, if there were a shot-for-shot remakes, why not just watch the original at that point? It's
Yeah.
the same thing. But if they change it, it's not really like The Lion King. It's not really Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't really see it much as a win-win scenario,
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're just intrinsically stupid. But
Yeah, which, again, it comes down to, like, aside from just being blatant fan service ploys to make a shit ton of money, like, I feel like undermines the original, art that is, the original movies.
yeah.
But nowadays it's so in fashion to pretend like you're, nostalgic about these things too.
Yeah.
Like, people are saying, "Oh my God, I'm so excited for the new Lion King. I love the original Lion King." It's like, well, when was the last time you thought about the Lion King?
Yeah.
And you want to fit in and say, "Oh, I'm nostalgic for that too. I'm really excited to go see it too because that meant so much to me as a child." I mean, it might have, but how much of it is genuine and how much of it is just trying to be fashionable?
Yeah.
And especially with Aladdin coming out, they're all coming out at the same time. That's the new thing to try and act like you're into. That's the thing you have to go talk about at work,
Yeah.
I also think that they're doing these remakes because let's be honest, the original Disney movies were a little racist here and there, and a little. They had
More than a little.
They had those undertones to them, though.
Jim Crow scene from Dumbo.
Okay, all right, okay, but I mean, like
85% of Mulan.
you understand what I'm going with, though. Like
yeah.
with the new Lion King, they're having an all African American cast,
Yeah.
except for one or two.
Yeah.
Like, why? The original cast was just as good, even though they were white. Like,
Yeah.
just because it's in Africa, you need an African American cast for it to make it feel more authentic, or to like.
And it's such a fine line to walk once you start really trying to
Yeah.
worry about that, because on one hand it's really good that they're trying to acknowledge it, but on the other hand it's also kind of, it seems a little sketchy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be like so over the top about making a point that we are 100% against the racism that was the original movies, and I'm not condoning it like in modern terms or anything, but that was the culture, that was the original.
That was the time we were in when these movies came out.
Because it still doesn't mean it was right, but it seems like going purposefully, for the all African American or actually African cast. It seems like almost an excuse and a marketing ploy more than anything, than a genuine attempt at equal representation.
Yeah.
Now let's be honest. You can't walk like 5 steps without offending someone nowadays.
And that's the thing. They draw attention to it, and I feel like that's just it's not like an honest remedy.
Yeah.
Or apology, or whatever you want to call it. It just doesn't seem genuine to me when they push it so far ahead in their marketing. And that's something they made a point of with The Lion King, for example.
Yeah.
And to me, it would have been more honest if they would have done that and kept the same cast that they have, but like don't use it as a way to try and draw people in, so that way they go, oh well, now I have to go see this because
Beyonce's in it.
yeah, because it's fixing what they did in the past.
Yeah.
It just seems like it even takes away from the art that is the modern movie. For that to be a draw.
Well, and I think.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
They're also doing that with cartoon shows that were really popular back then. I recently saw, I don't remember, I think it was on Reddit. There was a post that they were going to try censoring the old Looney Tunes cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
And Whoopi Goldberg had to came out and said she doesn't want them censored because it was a product of their time.
Yeah.
It's a piece of history.
Well, they're doing that a lot on Disney Plus too. Like they're getting rid of the Jim Crow scene from Dumbo. They're just trying to clean their slate completely.
Stupid.
Which seems sleazier than just admitting and like leave it out there as an example, if anything, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and Looney Tunes, they put out a DVD where before episodes that did have that sort of racist propaganda in it, it would just display a message where it was like, listen, this is wrong. We know it's wrong, but it's a product of the times. We're not going to destroy history.
Well, and I feel like
it's just how it was.
that's a much more honest way to admit, you know, like any faults or shortcomings.
Yes.
To like, I feel like it's a really respectable gesture for people and companies alike to put out their mistakes and advertise and say like, this is how it was. We're not trying to hide it. You know, this is what the company was at that time.
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing different now.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just trying to cover it up and pretending like it never happened, because that makes me feel like they're not really learning from it.
Yeah.
Which is a gross simplification of the issue, but you know, for brevity's sake.
Yeah, and the last thing I did want to add to that too, though, is when you guys were talking about how big of a emphasis they're putting on the all black cast in Lion King, because we've gotten really off topic.
That's all right.
Yeah, I think too it makes less sense in a movie like Lion King where you don't see any of the actors.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, I could see something like Black Panther, right? Where, yeah, it does make sense because the setting of it is in Wakanda, which is an African nation.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about the context of it. Whereas when it's an animated movie with no humans in it, it's like, well, anybody could do a voice. Like, you're not really making a big statement. You know, and especially when you have Disney, who, when they put the Star Wars posters in China, they make John Boyega really small in the background because Chinese people don't go to movies if a black character is the main lead. So it's like there's not changing. They're just
yeah. Well, and that's what I'm talking about as far as censoring goes.
Yeah.
You know, it's a marketing ploy to say, look, it's like that. Was that Family Guy with the "We're sorry"? No, that was South Park.
South Park, yeah. With
Sorry.
the BP oil spill.
We're sorry.
We're sorry.
You know, that's all I'm getting from it, really.
Yeah. So at that point, then, continuing our nostalgia talk, I would like to transition into Detective Pikachu, because I saw a lot of posts on social media and a lot of discussion of people saying that they cried at Detective Pikachu. And I also saw this slightly tangentially related with Endgame. And I find both of those absolutely ridiculous to cry to.
Yeah, I was not anywhere near.
I might. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, objectively, I think the new Pikachu movie is an objectively bad movie. Like, the nostalgia is what did it for me. That's all I had from it.
Okay.
And I mean, it looked pretty good, to be honest.
Yeah.
But story-wise, like, the ending kind of just ruined the whole thing.
Okay.
So.
I might have almost cried.
Yeah.
In Detective Pikachu.
What part?
But
spoilers for Detective
wasn't-
Pikachu, because we're going to talk about the movie anyways.
It wasn't a specific part. It was more just being there and seeing.
So it was the nostalgia of it.
I guess so. Yeah.
Because especially I think with this and Endgame, because I know, sorry, you haven't seen it yet.
Nope.
And I guess maybe we can cancel spoilers after I call them out. But there's a character death in Endgame. There's a couple deaths, and I mean, people are talking about crying multiple times in Endgame. When we saw it, there was a dude behind me who cried like 3 or 4 times.
Right. And
it's like you're coming in, and this is especially with Detective Pikachu, like you're coming in with such a commitment and a connection to the characters already. It's a little bit more excusable in Endgame because it's the 22nd movie in a series.
Even then, I didn't really get too attached.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't at all. But like with Detective Pikachu, like
It was all new characters.
Yeah.
There's no old characters.
Yeah,
It's just Pokemon that you know.
Yeah, and it's like, I think when you start seeing scenes and it's like, okay, well, yeah, I don't know this Detective Pikachu that's voiced by Ryan Reynolds based off a Pokemon spin-off game on the 3DS that nobody remembers. But you do remember in Pokemon the first movie when Ash is turned to stone, Pikachu's electrifying him, trying to bring him back.
And you remember Mewtwo getting, captured and everything.
Yeah, and I feel like that it's almost more just hitting those emotions than anything that the movie's actually introduced you to.
Yeah.
But so anyways, let's talk about Detective Pikachu, because we all saw Detective Pikachu. So Marty thought it was an objectively poor movie.
I mean, it's a weird thing for me, because I don't know how much of it is the nostalgia, because I would watch it again. It was it was an entertaining movie to watch, and Pikachu was funny and everything.
Yeah.
But like storytelling wise, maybe because it's it is still geared to be a kids movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, the plot was.
But
I didn't like the plot.
The plot was too quick and pretty shallow.
Yeah.
Which is fair, to be honest.
Yeah.
And which I was thinking when we were watching it, it did kind of feel like the same pacing as one of the original Pokemon cartoons, like one of the movies, and just the shots and like the kind of build up and everything. But what really got the ending
was really stupid.
It was really stupid.
Yeah.
We're spoiling it now, right?
Yeah, we can go into spoilers.
Because how it's like, it's his dad is actually Pikachu.
Oh, that was so obvious.
And I'm like, that's so fucking stupid. And everyone's happy about his dad being like brought back to his normal body and life, and Pikachu just going back to Pikachu. I'm like, you realize that's taking away the entire character that you just built up the entire movie.
Yep.
Like, and the friend that Tim made in Pikachu, he's basically that Pikachu that he made friends with is gone.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't exist anymore. And I'm like, how is that good? How is that better? How is everybody like, fuck yeah?
Well, then there's Bill Nye being the bad guy, which was terribly obvious.
I thought you were going Bill Nye the Science Guy.
No,
I was like, when
no.
the fuck was Bill Nye in Pokemon?
The actor Bill Nye.
Straight from the get-go.
Well, and then also just, it's so stupid that his plot is just, I'm going to put people's minds in Pokemon's bodies.
It's like, what was the end goal?
Yeah, what's the point of that? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Why does that matter?
He wouldn't have cancer.
But, like, he could have just done it for himself and chilled.
And if he still needs the headpiece to be in Mewtwo, then once his body died, he would still die. So he didn't even cure himself, he just fucked over everybody else.
I guess. That does make sense.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing about the movie that I really didn't like. I loved seeing the Pokemon in, a real world, and how...
Yeah.
That, that's what it would have been like. That's what I imagined being as a kid.
Yeah.
And I think I would have liked this more, honestly, if it was a smaller scale story.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like along the lines of the episodes where it's not life or death, end of the world stuff.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see more just snapshots into the Pokemon world, which is kind of what this started out as.
Yeah.
Just to scratch that nostalgia itch.
Well, I know for you were saying that the ending ruined the movie for you. I don't think it did for me.
I guess I shouldn't say that. It's a little bit hyperbole, but it just, because it took away that entire character that they built.
Yeah.
That you grew to know throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
And they basically just said it was all for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of, I don't know if I could watch it again objectively, because knowing that it doesn't matter what Pikachu's doing now, because it's just going to be gone in an hour anyway.
Yeah.
There's no continuation or anything, and it's just Ryan Reynolds cameo, end of movie. It's like,
I brought this up to you after we saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I think going back to the whole Disney remakes, I would have loved to see this Pokemon movie as portrayed with the original story of the Pokemon, the first movie.
well, that's kind of what they were going for in a way.
Just a little bit, but I don't know. I'm weird, but I would have just loved for this movie to be a shot-for-shot remake of Pokemon the first movie. Just because I feel like there's a lot more battles in Pokemon the first movie that I think they could have done.
You know why I think they didn't?
Why?
The one thing that I noticed too about the movie is, have you noticed there's only 15 different Pokemon animated?
Yep.
No.
Over and over. There was they only animated a certain small number of Pokemon. They repeated them. Everyone had a fucking Growlithe. Everyone had a Weavile or whatever the fuck it is.
I mean, because that animation had to be really expensive.
Well, and that's
Those
what
are
I'm saying.
really detailed models.
You know how many? You know what Pokemon are in the first movie? All of them.
True.
You know.
I just thought it would have been so cool
But then trying to find actors to portray the main characters,
Ash and Misty and
I feel like that
Brock.
would ruin it for a lot of people too. You
Okay.
know, because that's treading a fine line with nostalgia, where people either are gonna love it if they do it well, or they're gonna hate it if they fuck it up.
Just like Sonic.
Yeah. Well, a little different than Sonic, but yeah, Sonic is an abomination.
But yeah, I just
I
really
think-
think they could have done so much.
I think the other thing too with them omitting battles is because even you have the battle between Pikachu and Charizard and Gengar and Charizard,
Yeah.
but I think he was fighting Charizard, right? Or was it Blastoise?
It was Blastoise.
Blastoise. I think that the problem is when they have this realistic style. I think it would be a lot harder to portray that without making it seem like pit bull fighting. You know, when you
Yeah.
have two really real-looking animals,
Oh.
and like, okay, how are you going to show battle damage? Because you can't just have the little black scuff marks when it looks that real.
True.
You know, and it's a whole bag of worms
Which-
that it would open up if they had all those battles.
Which is a perfect segue into what I think they could have done too, is taken Pokemon in the direction of the original comics, where it's very adult themed.
Yeah.
And like pretty brutal. Like, you know, everyone always sees that picture of the Arbok cut in half.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you're gonna do it like dark, you know, like the dark noir city kind of stuff like they were going for a while.
Yeah.
You know, like have it so it's actually like some brutal underground fighting rings where the Pokemon are getting like seriously fucked up.
But
you know,
then-
have the bad guys be more sinister. You know,
Yeah.
like I would have liked to see that actually.
I would have also liked to see that, but then you're cutting out a whole group of audience
Well,
that they're
that's-
losing money to.
That's
Yeah.
the issue, because we'll never get something more artistic like that, even if it is an accurate representation of the original Pokemon,
Yeah.
which started like that. It's kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh did, where people fucking died all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like for real, and not like, oh, they might go sent to the Shadow Realm. No, it's like they get their fucking head cut off or something, or burned to death.
Well, it just comes down to money.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
always just money.
Which is
they gotta make. I mean, Detective Pikachu cost $150 million.
What?
Yeah, that was the production budget. So I mean, they gotta make back, you know, and then probably double it for the marketing on top.
Yeah,
So
and-
they gotta make $300 million
the
somehow.
only way to do it's fan service.
Yeah.
So
But I mean, even with the ending being shitty, I still really liked it.
I also
I thought it was fun. I thought it was like you were kind of talking about, Marty, about how it was how you imagine a real world with Pokemon.
and that's the one thing that I enjoyed watching it a lot.
Yeah.
You know, because I was like, this is what it felt like when I was a kid watching shit.
Yeah. The only other gripe I want to bring up, because I really did like the movie, was it pissed me off so much, that part where they're running and like the ground shifting because it's three giant
Torterra.
Torterras. And then the Torterras just lay back down.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Why'd they get up? I mean, I guess because of the side up thing.
but it's also like, what about the consequences of having three fucking mountain-sized Pokemon in Japan? Like, that's gotta be devastating.
Well, and the thing how like when they settled back down, like what about all the stuff that was under that?
Yeah, but I mean that's a plot contrivance, and it's like I said, didn't detract from it. Did you have anything else you want to say about Detective Pikachu?
I mainly just enjoyed the movie for the Pokemon.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention to anything else. Like, I just found myself just staring in awe at the Pokemon and how well they were made and how realistic
Yeah.
and just
Well, they got the same.
capturing it all.
They got the same designers from those like he just did pictures originally.
Yeah,
Right?
on Reddit.
And yeah, it was some guy that just for himself, you know, made these super realistic looking Pokemon. This is what Pokemon would look like if they were real. And they hired him as an art designer for these Pokemon.
Yeah, he was the one, they hired him and put
I
him in charge of
vaguely
it.
remember seeing some of his stuff.
Mhm.
That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That dude knows what he's doing.
And seeing his pictures for the first time was like, holy shit, this is like bringing it back, you know?
It was like when you first see the Venusaur, it's like, God, that thing's fucking ugly. I want it. So how do you guys feel that they have announced that there are talks about this being the launch off point for Pokemon Cinematic Universe?
Again, if we're talking, this is a nostalgic themed podcast. You know, that part of me is like, all right, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
give us something else that's just fun. You know, like right now it's Marvel, which is a pretty serious universe, even if with its like lighthearted jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially with the way Endgame was. There's very big scale stuff. I just hope if they do this that it's not like this big interdimensional kind of shit like Pokemon's been getting with like all these god Pokemon and stuff.
Wait, there's God Pokemon now?
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, like or was it Arceus or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
But and Palkia and Dialga and stuff like that, which I like. Oh, time and space. It's like no, just I miss it when Mewtwo was like the strongest thing, and Mew was the only one out there that was this mysterious entity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it was a lot more
really
tangible.
Sad that they didn't have a Mew in Detective Pikachu.
I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I thought for sure Mew was gonna pop up.
I was so excited. I was so ready to see what Mew looked like.
I think my thing
Probably be gross and all fleshy.
I would
like
be,
a pimple with a tail.
I would be excited for, depending on how much money it would cost, I would be excited for them to take it along the lines of like the original 3 Pokemon movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that would be really cool. I would love to see a fight between Mew and Mewtwo.
Well, and I think now that you have this movie being such a success, that I think they'd be willing to put more money towards future movies. You know,
I would hope so.
Because clearly there's an audience that is clamoring for live action Pokemon in the style, and I think they definitely deliver on it.
Which like, could you just imagine like Pokemon 2000 with like Lugia and the storms and all that?
Yes.
Or Forever, is that Pokemon Forever with Entei?
Yeah.
Where like there's like the big all the crystals. I just want the scenery, honestly.
Right.
That'd be fucking cool.
I just bought
all
the
the unknown.
3-movie Blu-ray of Pokemon, the first movie, Pokemon 2000, and Pokemon Forever.
Was that the first 3? Like
Yeah.
in
Yes.
order? Holy shit.
You want to
Where?
watch some tonight?
Yeah, we
not,
should.
Maybe not tonight.
I
Find it. I'll be back.
I think my only thing with the cinematic universe is that I don't want it to be like Marvel or DC or what they tried with the Dooku, where everything has to be connected. Like I want it to just be okay. You know, Rhyme City's out there, and maybe there's a passing reference, but like I don't want to watch 5 Pokemon movies for it to come to head in this one Pokemon movie.
Exactly.
I just do some random Pokemon movies. You know.
Yeah, and then that's like even with totally different characters every single time.
Yeah, that's
like,
fine. That's totally fine.
Which I've talked about this in a lot of podcasts. How like that's my shit.
Yeah.
Like I want to see just this is what it's like living in this world here, and then let's go see what it's like for these people.
Yeah.
You know, just like show me what it's like to be a normal person, like an almost normal person, because you still need something, some action or whatever. Like, show me what it's just like being in that world. I don't want to learn what it's like to be this character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just that slice of life.
Which is something I do kind of like about Game of Thrones, even if it is centralized, especially as you go on around these central characters. At least it does branch out, and you get like this is what it's like over in Westeros, and this is what it's like in was it Bravos?
Yeah.
You know, it builds a world that's really lost upon a lot of movies now.
Yeah. So final ratings for Detective Pikachu. Soraya, what would you give it?
I think an 8.
8?
Well, I don't know. This is hard because the story was kind of crappy, but everything else was really cool.
Okay. I mean, you
So-
can give it an 8.
I would give it an 8 based on the CGI for the Pokemon
Which was good.
and just the world overall.
Okay.
And then I'd give the story itself like a 5 or a 4.
Okay. I think overall I'd give it a 6. I didn't think the bad story detracted too much.
Okay.
I just had fun with it. If we're also rating the story like Soraya, though, I'd probably give the story a 2.
It's a really
Because it was
poor
complete
story.
fucking stupid shit.
Yeah, I'm starting to kind of retract my negative views comparing it to like those original Pokemon movies.
Yeah.
Because in the spirit of what Pokemon has always been, like since the 90s, I would honestly give it like a 7 or an 8. Like I feel like it really captured that original kind of feel. Even the story was pretty on par with how they always were as cartoons. So as a Pokemon movie, I would say probably like an 8, honestly. Maybe less if I was going to look at it from, an objective view, like maybe a 6 or something. But
Well, and I think too when you are looking at how shitty the story is, like
They're all shitty.
and it's just a mashup of Pokemon stories.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you have Mewtwo breaking out of the facility.
Yep.
And then the stupid thing with the Pokemon fusing. I mean, that was in the anime when there was like an arc where Ash fused with the Greninja.
Oh, I didn't even see that shit.
Is that from the new?
That's from new stuff.
Oh, yeah, because I was like, I don't remember that happening in
Yeah,
the original Pokemon
but like Ash
series.
fuses with a Greninja, and then he's fucking living in a Pokemon. You know, and then most of it's just the kid bonding with Pikachu, which is 90% of Pokemon.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that's the first episode, is Ash having to figure out how to deal with a fucking Pikachu. So like it's garbage, but it is just an amalgamation of Pokemon stories that are all kind of garbage.
I do think that the story for, let's say, Pokemon the first movie was 10 times more interesting than the story for Detective Pikachu.
But is that looking at them both now objectively, or is it because you originally watched the first movie when you were younger?
Looking at them objectively. Just because, I mean, you got a fucking Pokemon who wants to clone Pokemon for himself and rule them.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
much.
Like, there were a lot of... The thing is about the original Pokemon movies is there was a lot of darker undertones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially in that first one.
Well,
first one.
Pokemon, the third movie, even.
Yeah.
You know, that was probably one of the harsher ones. It's because about how, like, they were getting, like, he, like, isolated that little girl from...
Sarai hasn't seen the third one yet.
Really?
She has never seen
Well,
the third
that's the whole, thing. I mean, you could probably read the synopsis on the back, tell you. But,
Probably.
that was some dark stuff,
Yeah.
too.
No, yeah, definitely. All right, so what else have you guys been watching? What else have we been watching?
Paradise
to wrap
Hotel.
up here?
No.
We're like 5 minutes in. It's on the TV
Dude,
right now. How about you
Paradise
calm the fuck down?
Hotel, and I'm ready for some Bachelorette.
Oh, God.
I have succumbed to it after going, I don't even know how many seasons of The Bachelor or Bachelorette are, but I have gone probably whatever many seasons
Well, that was worth the thought.
minus 3 seasons, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for the next podcast, it's just going to be Soraya because Aaron and I will have killed ourselves.
From watching both Paradise Hotel and The Bachelor.
But the thing with Paradise Hotel is that it's the chattiest of the chads and the bimboiest of the bimbos just fucking each other for $250,000.
That sounds awful.
It's hilarious.
That sounds absolutely
it's
awful.
Hilarious.
Sounds so sweaty.
I can't talk too much shit, though, because I watched The Lost Stallions.
Oh, you did watch that?
Which is
I caught a little
a
bit.
garbage 2003 movie about 4 kids trying to catch 3 stallions for a $1,000 reward. And it's an hour and 20 minutes of absolute cinema agony.
I just walked in when he used the butt of the gun on the dog.
Yeah, that was brutal.
What?
Right at the end. So there's this convict. It's hilarious. It's a hilarious fucking movie the whole way through. There's this part where they're walking and they stop at a hay bale and they all just kind of sit down and the one kid's like, "Hey, girl, is it true you watched your mom die?" And like all these violins come in for it to be all sad. It's great. It's amazing. But yeah, they have a dog with them the whole time. This cute border collie, and there's this convict that is it's the convict's fault that the horses escaped, and he's on work release. And he's also wearing the shortest denim shorts I've ever seen in my goddamn life. But he has really nice thighs, so I'm not surprised he's wearing them.
If you could see him past his taint hair.
You can see a little bit of dick stem. And so he's following them the entire time because he's just like yelling at them. I don't know why. It never says. He's like, "Help me," and they're like, maybe. And then he's like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you." And then they keep just running away from him. And at the end, they find the horses, and they're about to like capture him. And then he walks up, and he's like, "So you guys found the horses, huh?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I told you there'd be consequences if you didn't help me." And he just butts the fucking dog with the gun.
Right in the head, knocks it out.
Yeah, and everyone thinks the dog is dead. And then the dog's fine. It's totally fine.
What
and
the fuck?
And it gets up, and he's like, "Oh, good, I didn't want to kill the dog." And then he walks off. It's like the stupidest fucking thing.
Why would they do that?
He didn't actually hit the dog.
Well, no, but
Honestly, the whole thing looks like it was recorded with a Nokia.
Oh, at best. They just took 24 pictures a second with it on the key and put it together. I also finished watching Atlanta. That was really good. That's a really good show. Marty, what have you been watching?
Nothing.
You've been catching up on Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But you've just started season 7.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like it so far?
I don't know. It's the beginning of the season, so
Yeah.
nothing really happens yet.
So let's see. The last episode is this Sunday. We're recording on Tuesday.
No, is it the last episode already?
Yeah.
I thought it's the second to last.
No, last week was this past Sunday was the second to last. The one you haven't watched yet is the second to last.
Oh my god.
So we have Tuesday, Wednesday,
so fast.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's 5 days, and I guess Sunday. So if you watched, that's 5 to 6 days. How many episodes do you have left? Because you watched one from season 7, so you have
But
7.
there's only like 8 episodes.
Yeah, so you have.
I need to watch like 2 days.
Yeah, if you watch 2 a day, you could finish it with everybody else, and we can talk about it. Well, actually, we won't talk about it until the Sunday after that.
So you got more time.
Yeah, so you have plenty of time. You have like 13 days, and then we can talk about it on the podcast about
Cool.
the newest season.
You guys will have to help me stay motivated to actually make it happen.
What's been spoiled for you so far?
The Jon and Daenerys' relationship, their ties, and then the Arya sex scene, because that's all over Reddit.
Mm-hmm. Side boob.
Side
A
boob.
little bit of butt crack.
Digitized side boob.
Which everyone was freaking out about that, but
I
like
thought-
she has nudes on the internet.
It's not even that. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
Like she just
Arya seems like a
posted
pretty
nudes.
chill fucking girl in real life.
The actress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whatever. The bigger spoiler in that case is because it's with what's his fucking name? Gendry.
Yeah.
But aside from that,
Nothing else.
no, I think most of my spoilers were up at the end of the last season, like with Tommen and
Season 6. Yeah.
I am excited for him to see what happens. Was it not this past weekend, but the previous weekend?
Yeah. I'm excited to do our podcast just so I can rant and vent about this current season. Because I hate it. I fucking hate it. I know, Saraya, you're enjoying it.
I have loved every single episode except for the Battle of Winterfell.
Which is totally fine. But I fucking hate it. And I think Marty's going to hate it too.
I think the thing that right now where I'm at in Game of Thrones that I'm getting really kind of frustrated with is just the whole Sansa and Jon thing.
Oh, that sucks in season 7.
I'm just like, just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop causing shit just for the sake of causing shit.
Yep.
That's all it is.
I don't remember what's happening.
Where they just bicker constantly.
They're just undermining each other all the time. Where
Yeah.
Sansa
Yeah.
thinks that she's like the one that has the most experience because of what she's been through, and Jon's like, "Fuck you."
And John's like
died.
in front of all the
I
lords,
did
and
die.
he's like, "All right, we'll do this," and she's like, "You shouldn't do that," and he has to be like, "Bitch, shut up when we're talking in front of people."
Yeah.
Yeah, the shittiest things about season 7 that you're watching is that shit goes ridiculously fucking fast, and Tyrion sucks. And Tyrion, Littlefinger, and Varys all go to shit.
Was that Euron Greyjoy too?
Euron.
Euron. He's just annoying to me.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Marty.
I mean, it's fine, but like,
It's not that. He's not in it that much, is he, in season 7?
in
that's-
season 7 and season 8, he's in it quite a bit.
I would say like so far. I mean, his whole bit is him, trying to get the crown, but like.
Yeah, he's just a sadistic fuck.
It's exhausting because like there's so many characters that are just like that. They're not complicated anymore.
Yeah.
It's just they're fucked up for the sake of being fucked up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like ever since The Dark Knight, everyone thought, oh, if you just make them like chaotically fucked up, they're interesting. It's like that's not what made the Joker interesting.
No.
Like he was methodical and he had a point, and there was like he had rules to all of it
And
in a way.
Yeah, and in this case, I just don't feel. I feel like he's just another character that we don't need. That just to instigate things.
Yeah.
His entire role is to instigate, and like storytelling wise.
Mm.
I mean, I've only seen him for like 3 episodes, but like that's all I'm getting from him. Is just he's the instigator.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll agree when he watches the 8th season?
Agree what?
Just about Euron in
That
general?
that he's just there to. He's a character specifically put in the plot just so they can have more plot.
Yeah.
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 You
Well,
know, with
especially-
that, I
Yeah.
guess I'm just focusing on the one scene.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Because that scene doesn't make sense.
Where
When you break it down, it doesn't make any fucking sense. I know the one you're talking about. We can talk about it off mic or when we talk about
So
it
yeah,
on
this is
podcast.
like the most obscure
It
conversation
does
we've
not
ever
make
had.
sense. Everyone knows what I'm talking about, what we're talking about, because episode 4 has a stupid fucking scene with Euron that does not make any goddamn sense.
I just
It's emotionally impactful because it comes out of nowhere, but it doesn't make any fucking sense.
okay.
Anyway,
I'm sorry for shutting you down. I am, but I'm passionate because I hate this season.
I just feel like they're rushing through it all.
Oh god.
They should have just done even just a full length season.
Yeah.
Like the first season, 10 episodes, about an hour each.
Yep.
Would have been much better than squeezing everything into hour and a half episodes and 6
Yep.
hour and a half, 6 hour and a half episodes. I got it, guys.
yeah, I think my big thing, because I'm getting near the end, and it feels like there's nothing left that I really even want to care about now that like it's wrapping up.
Yep. Anyways, my pick for animation, Soraya knows what it is because she
Kubo!
guessed it. Kubo and the Two Strings.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Perfect. I fucking love that movie. So we'll talk about that next Sunday.
That movie makes me cry.
Too bad.
And then we'll watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Woo!
No, I'm not picking that one. I like that movie, but we're not watching.
Oh my god.
So this was the Deus Ex Cinema podcast. Thank you everyone for listening. You can
I'm
find
choosing
us.
Space Jam.
Oh, kill
No.
yourself. You can find us on Instagram, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud as Deus Ex Cinema. Not Instagram. Instagram and YouTube, we're default white guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
I don't even know who I am anymore.
And